A little girl collapses outside a hospital. No one stops. No one but a lonely janitor. What he doesn't know, her mother holds a secret that will shatter his world. This is a story about the invisible heroes among us and the unexpected bonds that save us when we least expect it. Before we dive into this emotional journey, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Stories like this remind us of the power of human connection. Don't miss out on more heartwarming moments. The fall, the fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the emergency room entrance. Outside, the November wind bit through jackets, sending shivers down the spines of those rushing in and out. Among them was Lena Carter, a 7-year-old girl with tangled brown hair and a faded teddy bear clutched tightly in her small hands. She had walked 3 blocks alone, her breath coming in shallow puffs of fog. Her chest hurt, a sharp, stabbing pain that made every step feel like a mile. The hospital loomed ahead, its automatic doors sliding open and shut like a mechanical mouth swallowing people whole. Lena's vision blurred at the edges. The sidewalk tilted. Then her knees buckled. She collapsed onto the cold concrete, her teddy bear slipping from her grip. Around her, footsteps hurried past. A man in a suit sidestepped her without breaking his phone conversation. A woman pushing a stroller glanced down, hesitated, then tightened her grip on the stroller handles and walked faster. Inside the hospital, Manny Ruiz wiped sweat from his brow as he pushed his mop bucket across the lobby floor. At 58, his back ached more than it used to, and the night shift never got easier. The janitorial staff was invisible. People stepped around him like he was part of the furniture. He didn't mind. It gave him time to think, to observe. Then, through the glass doors, he saw her, a small figure, crumpled on the ground like a discarded doll. Manny dropped the mop. He didn't run often these days, but he ran now. The automatic doors hissed open as he barreled through, skidding to his knees beside the girl. Her skin was clammy, her lips tinged blue. He pressed 2 fingers to her wrist. A pulse, weak, Freddie, but there. Hey, kid, stay with me, okay? His voice was rough, urgent. No response. Scooping her up, he cradled her against his chest and rushed back inside. The ER nurses snapped to attention the second he burst through the doors. "We got a kid unresponsive," one shouted, and suddenly Lena was whisked away on a gurney, disappearing behind swinging doors. Manny stood there, breathing hard, his hands still tingling from the weight of her. His mind raced. Where were her parents? Why was she alone? Then he spotted something on the floor, a small, crumpled photograph that must have fallen from her pocket. He picked it up, smoothing the edges. A woman's face stared back at him. Dark hair, tired eyes, a smile that didn't quite reach them. His breath caught. He knew that face. But from where? The question gnawed at him as he paced the waiting room. Nurses moved in and out, their faces tight with focus. No one came asking for a little girl. No frantic mother, no worried father. Just silence. Then, as he turned the photo over, he saw it. A name scribbled in faded pencil on the back. Claire. And just like that, the memory hit him like a punch to the gut. 20 years ago, a rainy night, a teenage girl sobbing in the chapel, begging for help no one would give. Manny's hands trembled. This wasn't just some lost child. This was something much bigger. And he was the only one who knew. The unseen mother. The waiting room hummed with the low murmur of anxious families and the occasional crackle of the overhead intercom. Manny Ruiz sat on a stiff plastic chair, the photograph of Claire still clutched in his hand. His mind raced, trying to place where he had seen her before. The hospital chapel? The maternity ward? The memories were foggy, eroded by years of routine and exhaustion. A nurse approached, her shoes squeaking against the linoleum. "Mr. Ruiz?" The girl, "Lena. She's stable for now, but the doctors need to run more tests." "Do you know anything about her family?" Manny shook his head. "No. She was alone when I found her." He hesitated, then held up the photograph. "But I think I might know her mother." The nurse frowned. "You recognize her?" Before he could answer, a commotion erupted near the ER entrance. A woman's voice, raw with panic, cut through the noise. Where is she? Where's my daughter? Manny turned just as a disheveled woman in a thin jacket burst into the waiting area. Her dark hair was tangled, her eyes wild with fear. She looked exactly like the woman in the photograph. Older, wearier, but unmistakably her. Claire. Security moved to intercept her, but she shoved past them, her gaze darting frantically around the room. Lena, somebody tell me where my daughter is. Manny stood, his pulse quickening. Ma'am. She whipped toward him, her breath ragged. Do you know where they took her? Please. The nurse stepped in. Are you the mother? Yes. Claire Carter. Lena's mine. I came as soon as I... Her voice broke. Is she okay? What happened? The nurse guided her toward the treatment area, but not before Claire's eyes locked onto the photograph in Manny's hand. A flicker of recognition, and something darker, something like fear, passed over her face. Then she was gone, swept away behind the double doors. Manny exhaled slowly. He should have felt relief. The girl's mother was here. But instead, a knot of unease tightened in his gut. Something wasn't right. 20 minutes later, Dr. Patel, a tired-looking man with salt and pepper hair, emerged from the treatment area. He spotted Manny and approached. You're the one who brought her in? Manny nodded. How is she? Stable, but it's complicated. The doctor lowered his voice. She has a congenital heart condition, rare, progressive. It's the kind of thing that usually requires early intervention, but according to her mother, she's never had consistent care. Manny frowned. No insurance? It's not just that. Dr. Patel hesitated. The mother, she's evasive, won't give a full medical history. I get the feeling there's more to this. A chill crept down Manny's spine. He thought of the way Claire had looked at the photograph, like it was evidence of crime. Can I see the girl? He asked suddenly. Dr. Patel studied him. You're not family. No, but I think I might be the only one asking the right questions. After a long pause, the doctor sighed. 2 minutes, and don't make me regret this. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Lena lay small and pale in the bed, and force snaking into her arm. Claire sat beside her, gripping her daughter's hand like she was afraid she'd vanish. She looked up when Manny entered, her body tensing. You. He held up his hands. I just want to check on her. Claire's jaw tightened. Why? You don't know us. But I know you've been here before, Manny said quietly. Haven't you? The air between them went electric. Claire's grip on Lena's hand turned white-knuckled. You don't know anything, she whispered. Manny took a step closer. I remember you. 20 years ago. You were just a kid yourself, crying in the chapel. You were pregnant, weren't you? Claire's breath hitched. For a second, he thought she might bolt. Then her shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of her. They told me to give her up, she said hoarsely. Said I was too young, too poor. But I couldn't. I tried, God. I tried to take care of her. Her voice cracked. And now she's sick because of me. Manny's chest ached. He'd seen this story before. Kids raising kids. The system failing them at every turn. But before he could respond, a noise at the door made them both turn. A social worker stood there, clipboard in hand. Ms. Carter, we need to talk. Claire's face went ashen. And just like that, Manny realized this wasn't just about a sick little girl. It was about a mother who'd spent her whole life running. And time was running out. The ghost of St. Mary's. The social worker's polished shoes clicked against the linoleum as she stepped fully into the room. Her name tag read J. Alvarez, Child Protective Services, and her expression carried the practiced neutrality of someone who delivered too many life-altering pronouncements. Ms. Carter, she began, we need to discuss Lena's immediate care and living situation. Claire's grip on her daughter's hand tightened instinctively. Manny watched as her knuckles turned bone-white. Her entire body coiled like a spring. The air in the room grew thick, charged the unspoken understanding that this moment could unravel everything. I'm her mother, Claire said, her voice low but vibrating with tension. She belongs with me. Ms. Alvarez flipped a page on her clipboard. According to hospital records, Lena has missed critical vaccinations and specialist appointments for her heart condition. There are also questions about her school enrollment. She paused. And we can't ignore the fact she was found alone outside in the R. A muscle jumped in Claire's jaw. I was at work. She was supposed to be with a neighbor. The same neighbor whose phone number you can't provide. The social worker's pen hovered over her notes. Ms. Carter, I understand this is difficult, but we have protocols when neglect is suspected. Manny saw the word land like a physical blow. Claire's breath came faster now, her chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. He recognized the look in her eyes, not guilt, but the trapped animal panic of someone who knew how quickly the system could swallow you whole. That's not what this is, Claire ground out. I've kept her alive this long, haven't I? The heart monitor beeped louder, as if Lena's body was protesting the raised voices. Ms. Alvarez softened slightly. We're not the enemy here, but we need to ensure Lena's medical needs. I'll sign whatever papers you want, Claire interrupted. Payment plans, supervised visits, whatever, but you're not taking her. The social worker exhaled. Given the circumstances, we'll need to... Wait! The word left Manny's mouth before he could stop it. Both women turned to stare at him. He hadn't planned to speak, but suddenly the memory of his late wife, Rosa, how she fought for every extra day with their own daughter until the cancer took them both, rose like a tide in his chest. Mr. Ruiz, Ms. Alvarez said carefully, while we appreciate your help finding Lena, this is a private. I know this hospital, Manny said. He stepped forward, pulling the old janitor's key card from his lanyard. 28 years cleaning these floors means I know which doctors will treat pro bono, which charities cover medication, which social workers, he met Alvarez's gaze, will give a struggling mom one more chance if someone vouches for her. The room went quiet. Even the heart monitor seemed to pause between beats. Claire stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Why would you? Manny didn't answer directly. Instead, he reached into his wallet and slid out a faded photograph. A dark-haired woman holding a baby in a hospital blanket, nearly identical to Lena's. My Rosa and our Maria. Congenital cardiomyopathy. Same as your girl. He swallowed hard. We lost Maria at 9. Rosa 2 years later. This hospital could have done more for them. Maybe this is my chance to change that. Ms. Alvarez studied the photo, then the raw grief on Manny's face. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted. There would be conditions, daily check-ins, mandatory parenting classes. And Lena doesn't leave this hospital until we have a verified treatment plan. Claire nodded so vigorously her hair came loose from its ponytail. Yes, anything. The social worker made a note. I'll need to verify some things first. Mr. Ruiz, you're willing to serve as temporary sponsor? Manny didn't hesitate. Yes. As Ms. Alvarez left the file paperwork, Claire sank into the chair beside Lena's bed, her entire body trembling. I don't understand, she whispered. Why are you doing this? Manny watched the steady rise and fall of Lena's chest. Because when my girl was sick, he said quietly, nobody stopped for us either. A choked sound escaped Claire's throat. She pressed her forehead against their joined hands, one small and pale in hospital sheets, the other rough with years of survival. Across the room, unnoticed by either adult, Lena's eyelids fluttered, and for the first time since collapsing, the little girl's fingers twitched in her mother's grasp. The janitor's promise. The hospital chapel smelled of old hymnals and lemon-scented disinfectant. Manny sat in the back pew, rolling the faded photograph of his wife and daughter between his fingers. Dawn light filtered through stained glass, painting the floor in fractured colors. He hadn't slept. The creak of the chapel door interrupted his thoughts. Claire stood silhouetted in the doorway, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. The bruises under her eyes looked darker in the morning light. They're transferring Lena to pediatric cardiology today, she said. Her voice was hoarse. Manny nodded. Dr. Patel told me. Claire hovered near the pew, her fingers picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. I need to ask you something. She took a shaky breath. Why did you really help us? The question hung between them. Manny studied the photograph again. Rosa's smile, Maria's tiny hand clutching her mother's finger. The last picture taken before the diagnosis. After Maria died, he said slowly. I used to clean the pediatric wing every night. Wiped down every railing. Mopped every floor. His thumb brushed the photo's edge. Like if I kept it clean enough, maybe some other kid would. His voice broke. 20 years, and the wound still bled fresh. Claire sank onto the pew beside him. Lena was born here, she whispered. Right in this hospital. I was 15. Manny turned to look at her. The morning light caught the silver streaks in her hair he hadn't noticed before. They told me she'd be adopted by some rich family. Claire's laugh was bitter. Instead, she spent 3 years bouncing through foster homes before I got her back. Her hands clenched. I promised I'd never let them take her again. A door slammed somewhere in the hospital, making them both jump. Claire wiped hastily at her eyes. The social worker, Alvarez, she's checking my work history. Claire said, but I've been under the table at the diner since Lena got sick. No pay stubs, no. I'll vouch for you, Manny interrupted. Claire shook her head. You don't even know me. I know enough. Manny stood, his knees popping. Now come on. We got a little girl to fight for. The hospital administrator's office felt more like courtroom. Ms. Alvarez sat flanked by a hospital lawyer, and Dr. Patel, her clipboard overflowing with forms. Claire perched on the edge of her seat, vibrating with nervous energy. Ms. Carter, the lawyer began, your lack of verifiable income presents a... Manny cleared his throat. She's got a job. All eyes turned to him. Claire's were the widest of all. Effective immediately, Manny continued. St. Mary's Custodial Department is hiring Miss Carter as a part-time assistant. Full documentation, benefits eligible. The administrator frowned. Mr. Ruiz, you don't have hiring authority. No, but I do. The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned as Geraldine Washington, the head of environmental services, strode in. Her steel-gray bun barely moved as she took in the room. Been meaning to expand our evening shift, Geraldine said, fixing Claire with a piercing look. You any good with a floor buffer? Claire's mouth opened, closed. I can learn. Geraldine nodded once. Then we'll start you Monday. Health insurance kicks in after 30 days. She turned to the social worker. That satisfy your concerns, Alvarez? The social worker hesitated, then made a note. It's a start, but the medical bills. We're handling that too. This time the interruption came from Dr. Patel. He pushed a folder across the table. I've submitted Lena's case to the Children's Heart Foundation. They've approved emergency grant coverage for her surgery. Claire made a small, broken sound. Tears streaked down her face. There's more, Dr. Patel added gently. While reviewing Lena's records, we found something unusual. He slid another paper forward. At the top, next to attending physician at birth, was a name that made Manny's blood run cold. Dr. Ethan Kells. Claire made a noise like she'd been punched. That's impossible, she whispered. He wasn't. They told me he transferred. Dr. Patel's expression darkened. According to our records, Dr. Kells oversaw over 24 high-risk pediatric cases in the late 2000s, including your daughter's. He paused. And Maria Ruiz's. The room tilted. Manny's hand shot out to steady himself against the table. What are you saying? His voice came out strangled. Dr. Patel met his gaze. I'm saying we need to look deeper into why so many of Dr. Kell's patients with rare conditions, he chose his next words carefully, never got the follow-up care they needed. A stunned silence fell. Somewhere in the hospital, a cold blue alarm began to blare. Claire reached for Manny's hand. Her fingers were ice cold. Together, they stared at the name that connected their tragedies. The name that might finally explain everything. The last mop bucket. The hospital archives smelled of dust and forgotten stories. Manny flipped through the brittle pages of 2007 logbook, his fingers leaving smudges on decades-old paperwork. Claire stood beside him, her breath shallow as she scanned another shelf. He was here, she whispered. The same doctor for both our girls. That can't be a coincidence. Manny's throat tightened as he found Maria's old chart. The familiar handwriting made his chest ache. Dr. Kell's signature looping across discharge papers that should have included follow-up instructions. Instructions that never came. A floor above them. Lena slept under careful observation, her small chest rising and falling to the rhythm of the heart monitor. The surgery was scheduled for Thursday. But first, they needed answers. Found something, Claire said suddenly. She pulled a box labeled Kell's personnel from the shelf. Inside lay a single folder, stripped nearly bare. Only one document remained, a resignation letter dated 15 years ago, with no forwarding address. Manny squinted at the blurred carbon copy. Wait, turn it over. On the back, someone had scribbled a phone number in smudged ink. Claire's hand shook as she pulled out her phone. Only one way to find out. The line rang 3 times before a woman's voice answered. Greenwood Assisted Living. The nursing home garden was overgrown with late summer roses. Dr. Ethan Kell sat in a wheelchair by a koi pond, his once steady surgeon's hands now trembling in his lap. The stroke had left half his face slack, but his eyes sharpened when Manny said Maria's name. You remember? Manny said. It wasn't a question. Kell's good hand fluttered like a wounded bird. They made us keep quotas, he rasped. Too many Medicaid cases, not enough profit. A tear tracked down his paralyzed cheek. I flagged your daughter's test results. The system was supposed to notify you. Claire made a choke noise. And Lena? You knew her condition was genetic. You delivered her. The old doctor's breath hitched. The hospital board had a policy. Teen mothers, especially uninsured. It was cheaper to assume they'd default on payments than to authorize expensive treatments. His voice broke. I tried to fight it. That's why they forced me out. Manny's vision swam. 20 years of grief condensed into a single, burning truth. Maria might have lived. Lena might never have suffered. All sacrifice for profit margins. Claire collapsed onto a garden bench, her face in her hands. All this time, I thought it was my fault. 1 week later, the sunlight streaming through Lena's hospital room window held a golden quality, like the world itself had taken a deep breath and exhaled relief. The surgery had been a success. Claire smoothed her daughter's hair as Lena giggled at the get-well cards from the hospital staff. Manny stood by the door, his janitor's keys in hand, but not for much longer. The lawyer filed a class action this morning. Claire said quietly, against the hospital, the board, everyone. Manny nodded. It wouldn't bring Maria back. It wouldn't erase Lena's scars. But maybe, just maybe, it would keep another family from suffering. Lena waved a small hand at him. Manny, come see my cool scar. He crossed the room, his work boots squeaking on the freshly mopped floor. The little girl proudly lifted her hospital gown to show the bandages. The doctor said, I'm going to be super strong now. Something warm and fragile unfurled in Manny's chest. He met Claire's eyes over Lena's head. In them, he saw the same tentative hope that had taken root in his own heart. Maybe this was why he'd survived when Rosa and Maria hadn't. To mop the floors until the right lost girl collapsed on them. To help another broken family piece themselves back together. Claire reached out, squeezing his calloused hand. No words were needed. Outside the window, the first autumn leaves began to fall, making way for whatever came next. The end. This story proves that ordinary people can change lives in extraordinary ways. Did Manny and Claire's journey inspire you? Share this story with someone who needs hope today. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful tales of resilience. Who's the unsung hero in your life? Tag them in the comments below.